splendor, the art, magnificence, and rule of the people. And the slavery and mob rule?
Say what?
Wait, Athens is supposed to be the center of art and culture in the ancient world. It's why most of us have studied it at some point in our schooling.
I didn't.
And it's true, but Athens was much more than a place for just theater and democracy. Athens goes way back, to even the Mycenaean civilization, the first recognized advanced civilization in ancient Greece. Athens was just like every other city-state, having the rule of a king. They were called city-states because, well, it was a city. But that city was your identity, your nation. It would be like someone from Bismarck, North Dakota, thought of and referred to as Bismarckan, or Bismarckian or something like that, rather than American. Like people from Atlanta would be Atlantean. You get it?
Yep.
I said Atlantean, you know, because it's funny.
Really funny.
You know, from Crete and everything. And even though Athens had been around for hundreds of years already at this point, by 508 BCE, people got tired of being ruled by a tyrant who forced his way in with Spartan allies, Zagreus, and an aristocracy that didn't really seem to care about the people. Go figure. So, the people overthrew their new king, and another noble, Cleisthenes, helped propose a new place where men could speak out about their city, and instituted the vote.
I vote for hot dogs.
Using stones to vote yes or no. So it was democracy. Well, technically, it was only the men who could vote, not the women or the slaves, but it was a primitive democracy of sorts. And at times, if people didn't like you, they could just convince others to vote you out of the city for 10 years. 10 years, that's a lot considering most people's life expectancy was around 40 back then.
What?
They even did it to their heroes and political enemies. So if you controlled the mob, you controlled the politics. Some military heroes were exiled or even executed by people who had no military experience voting for them to be killed. It got kinda crazy. Alright, historical spoiler time. Socrates was known to criticize the Athenian government and society, and after a major military defeat in Sicily, the people decided to put him on trial to take out their frustration and punish anyone who thought of undermining their own policies. He was sentenced to death by drinking poison, which he did. And since we get to see him all buddy-buddy with the main character in the game already, most likely we're going to witness his death as well. But that started democracy. Then about 18 years later, the Persians invade. They actually invade because Athens chose to help a failed rebellion of Greek colonists in Ionia, which was in Asia Minor at the time, which is now the country of Turkey.
That's too much to remember.
Athens asked for help from other city-states, including Sparta. Sparta refused, but some other city-states did come to help. Athens itself had over 10,000 men who voted to fight. They go to Marathon and crush the Persians there. And you have the famous Phidippides who ran the 26 miles and died, but people don't actually talk about the 140 miles he ran in 2 days to Sparta and back prior to the battle.
I could do that.
So Athens wins. Sparta is embarrassed because the Athenians beat the Persians without the greatest military in Greece, and the Persians are pissed. A general of the battle, Themistocles, who knew the Persians were pissed, became a hero and convinced his fellow Athenians to invest their newly found riches in the creation of a big navy to help defend Athens against her enemies. So, the beginning of Athenian naval power starts. When the Persians invade again for a second time, they hold off the Persian navy from getting around the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae and beat the Persians at Salamis. Even the Oracle of Delphi stated,
"Though all else shall be taken, Zeus, the all-seeing, grants that the wooden wall only shall not fail."
What?
Basically meaning the ships.
Oh.
Well, the Delian League starts, which I mentioned in my last video, and bada bing, Athenian Empire of the Aegean. Athens became a metropolitan center of the Greek world and a huge trade center. This was the golden age of Athens. Almost every philosopher, building, and other things that we know about ancient Greece happened in Athens at this time. They even built a huge temple to Athena to both honor the goddess and to have a safe place to keep all that Delian League money they moved from Delos to Athens. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, we're definitely going to run into some of these people and buildings and other features of Athens, and who knows, maybe even possibly collect money for the Athenians. And as I mentioned before, they manage to keep pissing off Sparta until war happens. They tell all the Athenians living outside the city to get within the huge walls. And they don't confront the Spartans on land and try to invade other places and help other rebel groups against Persia and Sparta. They helped rebels fight the Persians in the city of Memphis, which failed miserably with a few survivors making it to Cyrene before fleeing Egypt, and also helping escaped Spartan slaves, the Helots, set up shop at Pylos. Now, while Athens and her allies did fight Sparta on a number of land engagements, their strategy of generally avoiding the Spartans on land backfired.
Say what?
When rotten grain was shipped to the city, about a fourth of the population died of sickness that spread very quickly in the confined quarters. Maybe we will be the ones who carry the grain to Athens, knowing that it would spread disease. Perhaps it would be a lesson for our character to refine their skills to become more assassin-like, rather than having huge numbers of innocent deaths. I don't know, but looking at the historical events, this game could very well explain the beginnings of what we would call the Templars. Just a thought. But this is not the end. One more thing happens to Athens. Tired of hiding behind the walls, they decide to sail off to a far land, this time Sicily, to help a city against the Syracusans, who are loyal to Sparta.
That makes no sense.
So Athens assembles the largest army they've ever fielded, with over 10,000 men for infantry, with several thousand more for their navy, and a few thousand more from their allies, plus reinforcements. Well, needless to say, the Spartan-trained and led Syracusans whomp the Athenian army. Tens of thousands die, and Athens crumbles. And remember Persia? Well, they had been keeping up with the events and paid to supply Sparta with a fleet to blockade Athens. Athens sued for peace. And while Sparta crumbled a few years later, Athens regrew and began to produce some of the same scientific and artistical achievement it had done during its golden age. So what does this mean for Athens? Will they be an actual supporter of the ideals of the assassins, giving people a free choice to govern themselves? Perhaps, or perhaps not. Let's not forget that many Athenians had slaves who did most of their hard work. Or would they be the supporters of the ideals of the Templars, with their imperial control of the other city-states? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. As always, thank you for watching. If you liked the video and would like to see more, just click that like button and subscribe. This is Eric, the LonePineWolfman, and remember gamers, never stop learning. Be sure to check out my next video purely on Spartan society, coming soon.